Welcome to the 10K subscriber special. Today we have a very special guest. We have an HR generalist in the room. She has appointed over 47 graduates over the past 2 years, and she's also built 5 graduate programs. So she's going to be giving you tips in how to learn your next internship, graduate program, whatever, even if you are doing intermediate or whatever. Just general tips and something that might help you find your next job. You may take a guess who it is, but I'm thinking you've already seen the title. So, ladies and gentlemen, give your hands up for Dinielia, HR generalist, aka my friend.
So I am Dinielia Pillay. As Nati mentioned, I am an HR generalist by title, I guess, but I actually have experience in graduate recruitment and graduate program development. So that is really my passion. Beyond that, I do have a personal project. I run a sort Discord server. Basically, what I do is share CV templates, cover letter templates, and I also coach students and grads to get interviews at jobs.
Okay. Welcome properly once again, Dinielia.
Thank you.
I think maybe we can just start off by giving us general tips for someone who's applying. Doesn't matter if you're entry level or whatnot, just the general tips that you should just know before you apply.
So always be cognizant of the kind of organization you're applying to. Some are very big and others are not so big. So very, very smaller companies. Bigger organizations use something called an applicant tracking system for recruitment or an ATS. And basically what that does is instead of Dinielia reading the CV, the system reads the CV and it generates a score based on the job description. So if my job description says JavaScript and your CV says JavaScript, it's a match. Now I know the system will notify me to go look at that CV, or it will generate a percentage rather. So I always recommend when you're applying for jobs, don't use a CV that has columns. You have one column here for skills and another column for personal information. The CV must be like a book because the system just reads it across line by line. If you have columns, the system doesn't know how to read it like that. Secondly, things like your picture, we don't need to see unless you're applying to be a model. And things like your health status or disability, those kinds of things, they are personal information which a company is not allowed to ask, so don't put them there unless asked.
So I can show off that I'm healthy.
But yeah, unless of course required for the job for you to be physically fit, right? But in software engineering or tech, it's not necessarily a requirement. And then of course, I cannot stress communication is so important because there's been so many times where I invited candidates for assessments or to an interview, and because these guys don't check their emails every day, they miss opportunities. And there's been many cases like that. Also, I'm a Gen Z. I don't like to answer phone calls, and I'm sure most of Nati's audience doesn't like to either.
The introverts.
But when you are job hunting, you have to answer your phone, right? And please put a phone number that we can reach, because I'm going to call you and you're going to miss an opportunity. So I'll go to the next CV I see.
Okay. That is comprehensive. I think anyone who didn't get it will just put a comment down below. So I do have a couple of questions for you that we're going to go through, just try to cover and help up anyone who's trying to find a job or interns, graduates. I'm not sure if we're going to touch on the learnership. I think that's a bit of a different case. So the first question that I have for you is, other than like technical skills, what else do you look for in a candidate? Let's say maybe they just came out of university district, like entry level. What else are you looking for?
So first things first, when you're entering the job market, no organization should expect you to know everything. If they are, you are it. But as recruiters, we know that you just joined the workforce, or you're trying to, you don't know everything, you don't have the experience. But what we're really looking for is the willingness to learn. Because, I don't know if you guys know that meme, since you got your degree, you think you know everything.
Since you got your degree, and you know every fucking thing.
And I'll tell you firsthand, just because you have a qualification doesn't mean you know everything. There's way too much to learn. So we're looking for the guys who are always continuously upskilling. You want more information. More than that, you're passionate about tech. Especially technical recruiters. We don't look for the guys who just want to clock in their 9 to 5. Even on the weekends, you have a side hustle, or you're building a project, or you're designing a game. Those are the kinds of people we look for. Because if you're in tech for just the money, you're not going to last long, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fair. I think I'm gonna assume mostly on the technical that we are referring to, especially if someone maybe is a software engineer. Most of the audience are looking into that. It's something like technicality. We mean like building projects and being able to maybe C sharp, Python and all of that. So outside of that technicality, that's what she would really look for.
100%.
Okay.
I think more than that also, don't focus on learning too many technical concepts or too many programming languages. Focus on one or two, become good at it, become proficient. Because when you come to an interview, even though, a certain organization, let's say they use C sharp, and Java, you can't walk into the interview and say, oh no, I don't know how to answer this question because it's based in C sharp and I know Java. We're looking to see your problem solving ability. It's just a syntax difference really. And we are trying to see.
At this point, I think I'm going to appoint you to an intermediate software engineer because you're really sounding like a technical recruiter. But I also can't stress it enough because I think people really like to hop on the languages back and forth. But actually, most of the things are just the same. Object-oriented programming is the same throughout. Concepts are the same. Syntax just differs from time to time. So it's just not that much. You just need to be able to solve problems. We are using the language to solve problems. We are not like wanting to build. We are not required to actually know everything, like know each and every language. We're just using the language to help us solve problems.
Exactly.
That is very clear. I think we will go to the next question. Okay, we're gonna move to the next question, which is, in your experience, how do you then balance like cultural fit and also technical ability? This can be like barriers, whether someone is a BA, they have experience, but how would you now value between that experience or ability versus cultural fit?
So the truth is, and obviously it will differ according to organization, but I would rather choose somebody that's going to fit into the culture of the organization, as opposed to somebody with raw talent. Because sometimes what will happen is, let's say Nati joins my company and he's really, really great developer. But soon after Nati joined, there's a bunch of resignations that hit my desk. And people are saying, I can't work with Nati, he's difficult, he's not doing what he should be doing. So I need somebody that's going to work well with the others that are already within the organization. So culture fit over raw talent sometimes.
Okay, that definitely makes sense, because as much as I can be good, but if I can't work with people and people are leaving because of you, that means the entire team now is gone just because of one individual.
Exactly.
And no matter how good you are, you can't do everything by yourself.
Yes.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. Okay, coming to our next question, which is something that I really speak on this channel, which is personal projects, contribution to open source, and also portfolios, which I rated. Also, we have a new series coming along. We're gonna rate portfolios again, but yeah, I digress. How do you view the personal projects and contribution to open source, and does it count if I have like an internship formally that I've done before, or I'm still good with my personal projects and my portfolios if I'm doing something that's impactful and something that's like trying to solve a problem which showcase my skills? How do you view that part?
So the first things first, if you're going to be a software engineer or somebody in tech, really, because I mean tech careers are quite vast, right?
Yeah.
But having a personal portfolio or a GitHub profile is extremely important, even as a grad. And I say this because think about it this way. You wouldn't hire an architect or an interior designer without a portfolio to show their previous work, right? So companies are the same. We want to hire software engineers whose previous work we can see. It doesn't have to be official in the sense where you did it for a different company. Even if it's something you're playing around in your spare time, it's a pet project of yours, put it on your GitHub repo so we can actually see what you've been working on. So GitHub profiles, and of course I've seen some amazing websites displaying the work that the students have done. So that's really important. And then in terms of internships, I would strongly recommend that you proceed with caution. And I say this because internships differ according to organization. If I work for organization A and I hire Nati who's fresh from school, the internship can be pretty much free labor, and I'm asking him to do a fraction of what he could be doing, right? So when Nati tries to interview for the next organization, he doesn't have much to show because he really didn't do much, right? And he was, I guess, providing free labor. The other thing is, if Nati and I'm working for organization B and I hire Nati, there's a chance that Nati will just be getting me coffee. He'll be a software engineer intern, but he'll be getting me coffee. So be very wary of the organizations you apply to. A good indicator is reach out to the people that already worked there or worked in that position previously. And if you're in the interview stages, hey Dinielia, I see you work here. Can you tell me about this position? Because that's what I'm, interviewing for. So be very careful. Also, once again, differs from organization to organization. Some companies won't take you onto their grad program if you've already served under another internship. So it's one of the requirements that you cannot serve or rather worked for another IT company.
For the next question, let's not focus too much on the technicality. So let's talk about communication traits. Like before any interviews, like what will make you want to say, you know what, this person, I would like to work with them based off their communication or the energy that they bring?
So the truth is, and I mean, it's no fault to the students or the graduates, you just weren't told any better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say now you get shortlisted, Nati gets shortlisted, and I send him, let's say, assessments. Hi Nati, please complete these assessments. You have 7 days to complete it, whatever. And Nati doesn't respond to the email, right? But then there's Dinielia. I sent her the assessments, and then she responds and says, thank you for, shortlisting me. I'll be sure to get the assessments done as soon as possible. Naturally, I take a liking to Dinielia because now she's opened the communication pathways, and she's letting you know she's received it, which is also an indication that she's quite interested in the role, right? Whereas Nati didn't respond, didn't ask me any questions. Now I'll just hope in 7 days' time that he completed the assessments.
Yeah.
So communication is very important. And I mean, it works both ways. If you have questions for the recruiter, hi Dinielia, you invited me for an interview. I just want to know who's going to be on the panel, or am I going to be expected to do live coding in the interview? Ask those questions so you can better prepare, because sometimes they might not always state it in the interview agenda.
The funny part is people will get those, you'll invite them to interviews and they'll come ask me instead of asking you. Then I'll be like, we have an HR, you can reach out to them.
Yeah.
Like, it's not criminal, guys,
Yeah.
to actually ask if you're gonna be interviewing, and then you just invited what kind of technical interview. There's so many technical interviews. There's an assessment, they can be live coding, they can give you a laptop, they give you system designs over a whiteboard, can be just a chat back and forth.
Exactly.
So you're still open to ask okay, what should I expect so I can better prepare for this interview? That is not a bad thing to say, by the way. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about online presence, how important is being online in terms of maybe being on LinkedIn. I think one thing that I usually encourage people is to be visible on the internet. Recruiters are there on LinkedIn, which is like a platform for getting jobs. And then they should post more. Maybe I'm working on this, I'm exercising to get this certificate, and also make sure that it kind of aligns to what your role is or what the next role that you're looking for. What are your views on that?
So we are in the era of technology and social media, and you guys are in the tech space. It would be kind of weird if you didn't take to social media.
Yeah.
But that being said, you have to be responsible with it. So in case of LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is a professional platform. Stay away from making jokes or memes, which you can, as long as they're respectful.
Yeah.
I remember there was this one candidate who was in the process with us, and she connected with me on LinkedIn. And then she commented something about recruiters are going to hell. And that really skewed my vision on her.
I mean, we are only people, so that's definitely gonna affect.
Exactly. So be careful about that, because you don't know who's watching you. And then for techies, for software engineers, it's very important, and not just software engineers, but people who are looking for jobs in general. The first place recruiters will look, especially if you're headhunting, you will look on LinkedIn, because where else are you going to look, really? And that's why your profile and what you put on there is so important. Nati can say he is a software engineer and he's working at this company, and he can leave it at that. But then Dinielia goes, I'm a software engineer, I'm proficient in C#, I've worked on this project, here's my GitHub profile, this is what I'm interested in, this is the university I went to. Those things are very, very important. Even if you are pursuing things like Udemy certificates, there's a lot of free courses. Add it, mention your milestones and achievements. Because especially in the tech space, when I do a LinkedIn search, I'm going to say I want an intermediate software engineer who knows C# and JavaScript, and then Nati comes out. But then there's 10 other people who have those skills, but because it's not on their profile, it doesn't come up. So online presence and putting the right things on your profile is very important.
Makes sense. Okay, the video is getting a bit too long, so we're just gonna do 2 more questions, and then you can tell us a bit more about Sora after that, and how people can get to you, how you help them out with the CV templates and all of that. The link will be in the description, so you can definitely check it out. And the first question is, how much important are hackathons going into this kind of communities and actually participating in that? Yes, sir.
So, hackathons and tech meetups, tech events, very, very important. I know Geek Culture does a lot of hackathons throughout the year, so if you want to get involved, I recommend following them.
Sponsor us, Geek Culture.
The amount of recruiters that are actually, and not just recruiters, but senior technical people that are at these hackathons as mentors, it's actually quite phenomenal. I've never seen a group of people come together like at a hackathon or a tech meetup. And I actually went to the Geek Culture Hackathon last year, where people actually came up to me with their CVs. And as much as they're there to participate in the hackathon and build this project, they saw an opportunity, they used it.
And there's still potential employers there.
Exactly, 100%. And I mean, I love it when people see me and they come up to me with their CV, because that's what those events are about.
Yep.
Use the opportunities and the resources that are in front of you, because you won't get an opportunity elsewhere.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. I mean, even if you don't see potential employers, you can still network and
100%.
like you can get your next referral there. You can find someone like me who work at Box Fusion, and then I see that you're actually good, and then there's a graduate program or there's a junior, and then I'll be like, you know what, you're actually a good fit for this, and then I talk to Dinielia like, hey, you have this, can I refer them?
Yeah.
Which actually we know referrals definitely do count as well.
Exactly.
Okay, we are on to the last question. What is one thing that candidates should be absolutely doing, but is kind of underrated, or people are not even taking, like they don't say it and they don't really do it that much?
Networking. I know probably a people are going to just roll their eyes behind their cell phones, but networking is so important, guys, especially in the tech community. The amount of people that I've hired into our current organization, where I've either met them at a career fair or they heard me speak at a webinar. Networking is too powerful, and even if the particular person can't help you get a job in this organization, they can always refer you to a friend to say, hey, I met this individual, I think they'll be a good fit for the role you have at your company. More than that, networking is also great for knowledge sharing. Because you think you know it all, or you think you know enough, but there's never enough. That's why Nati makes such videos like this, so you can actually share information and get more knowledge. So networking is definitely underrated. As much as you're online and you're updating your LinkedIn and you're watching videos like these, get out there and speak to people, because I'm going to remember this person that came up to me at the hackathon and said, please look at my CV, or I'm really interested in this, can you share more, as opposed to somebody that's just a cold application.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. I think bonus point is, if you're in universities, make sure that you make use of the career fairs, because most of you go there looking for goodies.
Yes.
So make use of that opportunity, talk to people and actually show them. I think while we're at UFS, one guy came up with his laptop and showed me his portfolio as well, gave him some pointers and whatnot, and then you can actually meet someone and be like kind of get a referral, or because you will see, it will build some kind of trust, because actually see what you have done, or we're here out of interest. But okay, enough about that. Thank you for coming through to the channel. I think the last thing on our topic is, tell us about Sora. What are you doing there? What's there?
Cool. So SOAR is basically a Discord server. What it stands for is Student Opportunities and Resources. And it's got like 500 plus members now. So
Nice.
you pretty much have easy access to me, but to not overwhelm myself because I have a day job. There are a whole list of CV templates and tips. So I've got the CV templates, cover letters, how to speak to a recruiter, outreach emails, you name it, it's there for you to use. And then if you're stuck on something, or you're getting an interview and you need my advice, or you need me to coach you, then we can have those discussions as well.
Okay, that's actually very thoughtful. The link will be in the description for you to check it out. Be part of a community. That's the first step. So thank you very much for coming through again. And yeah, hopefully we might have you for a second video maybe.
That's if they like me.
Yes. 500 likes and then we can have it again. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Likewise.